"Let anyone who has never sinned throw the first stone." You might be surprised to learn that this famous quote attributed to Jesus might not have been said by him at all. And that's not all. There are other texts and figures you know from the Bible that might be quite different from what you imagine. In this video, we'll explore these and other surprises that have changed the way the Bible is read and interpreted over the centuries. Stay until the end and tell me, which of these revelations surprised you the most? Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more discoveries like this. Let anyone who has never sinned throw the first stone. How many times have you heard this well-known phrase from Jesus? Without a doubt, this is one of the most popular episodes from the Bible. However, did you know that there's a good chance Jesus never actually said it? For those who don't remember, this is the famous quote from Christ when he stopped the Pharisees from stoning a woman to death. In most translations, this statement from Jesus appears in the book of John. The issue is that the oldest translations of the Gospel of John do not include this story. In fact, this episode doesn't appear in any book until the 5th century, nearly 400 years after Jesus' death. The first text to include this story is an ancient Greek and Latin translation of the Gospels known as Codex Bezae, also called Manuscript D. This translation is famous for containing this extra detail that doesn't appear anywhere else, and this particular story was translated in a way that some Bible scholars say doesn't seem to have been written by the same person who wrote the book of John. Even so, many people still defend that it's a true story, mainly because it sounds like something Jesus would do. There are many reasons to believe that this episode actually happened, but, in reality, Jesus never said this phrase. Now tell me, did you know that this saying of Jesus was never actually in the Bible? Well, now let's look at the relationship between unicorns and the Bible. This creature supposedly appears in several different passages of the Christian Bible, such as in the books of Psalms, Job, Numbers, Isaiah, and Deuteronomy. There's also a curious part of the Bible where Moses starts talking about unicorns as if they were everywhere. These supposed appearances of this creature in the Bible have led many people, even today, to believe that they were indeed mentioned in the Holy Scriptures. The problem is that this was probably a serious translation error. The truth is that not all scholars agree that the Hebrew word reem or reem means unicorn. In fact, the word refers to a single-horned creature, being more of a genus than a specific species. It's a word that could refer to practically any horned creature, including rhinoceroses, oxen, buffaloes, and antelopes. While the King James Version of the Bible uses the word unicorn, other animals appear in different translations. Today, most Bibles refer to them simply as wild oxen. And the unicorn became part of our mythological fantasies, all thanks to a poorly done translation. The 14th chapter of the first epistle to the Corinthians, written by the Apostle Paul, contains a rather curious passage, appearing in verses 34 and 35, where it reads, "Women should remain silent in the churches. They are not allowed to speak, but must be in submission, as the law says. If they want to inquire about something, they should ask their own husbands at home, for it is disgraceful for a woman to speak in the church." There's a major issue of coherence within the context of this text. In the same chapter, the Bible calls on men and women to prophesy and speak in tongues, clearly stating that brothers and sisters should do these things together in the church, not remain silent while in the house of God. So, does this mean the Bible is contradictory? The text itself isn't, but its translation is. Some people believe that one of the early Christian scholars simply got tired of his wife and added a verse to make her leave him alone. There's a story that says there's a 4th century manuscript of the Book of Corinthians with a small pencil note in the margins near these verses, stating that they are a later addition that wasn't originally in the book. In other ancient manuscripts, these verses appear in different random parts of the Bible. In this case, it wasn't a translation error, but someone who got tired of his wife and decided to add some verses to the Holy Scriptures. At the same time, many believe this theory was created by modern readers to try to erase this part of the Bible, as there are many manuscripts that contain these verses. So, for now, most translations still keep these verses as they are. In an edition of the King James Bible made in 1631, there was a printing error that completely altered one of the 10 Commandments. As everyone knows, the 10 Commandments involve things like, "Thou shalt not kill," and "Thou shalt not steal." However, something very strange happened in the printing made by a man named Robert Barker. The word "not" was missing, and one of the commandments read, "Thou shalt commit adultery." At the time, this edition caused a huge scandal, and Robert Barker, besides being fined, also lost his printing license. King Charles I of England ordered all 1,000 copies of the so-called Wicked Bible to be burned. It's said that today only about 10 copies remain, and in 2015 one was sold for over $40,000. Lastly, but certainly not least, we have one of the most controversial verses in the Bible. In Deuteronomy, chapter 23, verses 17 and 18, it says the following, "There shall be no prostitute among the daughters of Israel, nor shall there be a sodomite among the sons of Israel. You shall not bring the wages of a prostitute or the price of a dog into the house of the Lord your God for any vow, for both are an abomination to the Lord your God." Many people use these verses to condemn homosexuality. It seems quite clear what these verses mean, but the maliciously minded believe this passage has another intention. The word sodomite, in its original meaning, is closer to male prostitute and has no relation to homosexuality. In other words, in the original Hebrew, the whole verse seems to be clearly condemning prostitution for both sexes, rather than being specifically an attack on homosexuals. Even so, religious leaders continue to use the verses to condemn homosexuality, even though the term is never mentioned anywhere in the Bible. It's worth noting that many Bible translations had political influences. Scholars say that the most widely used version, already mentioned, the King James Bible, was translated at a time when the king wanted to protect Britain from a religious war. That's why he appointed 54 scholars and clerics to do the translation. It took 7 long years to complete the work, which was not intended to be a literary creation, but rather a political and theological compromise between the established church and the growing Puritan movement. This explains a lot. I'll stop here. See you in the next video. Bye.